Well, my dear students of class 8A and 8B, today I am going to introduce the following lessons. As per the following lessons, you will have certain ideas about the topic lesson 6, decline of the Mughals and the rise of the regional kingdoms. What did you know about, what did you understand about the concept of the lesson? In order to testify your knowledge, I have decided to teach some extra points, just like points to be taught: disintegration of the Mughals, rise of the Marathas and other powers. In the previous class I explained, but once again I would like to re-explain it in order to testify your your knowledge and your ideas of the lesson. Now, disintegration of the Mughals. You know, the Mughals came to power with some distinguished rulers of that dynasty who was born with their skills. Who were they? They were Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. They all contributed a lot in the field of their all round in the field of their respective fields, in order to prosper the country, in order to make the country prosperous. It is due to that reason, my dear students, they followed a system where people were happy, people were prosperous, they had no dissatisfaction, they had no grievance. So, our country, India, witnessed an age of an age of prosperity, an age of happiness. But now, disintegration of the Mughal Empire, you know, it was due to some technical mistake of Aurangzeb and his wrong policy he adopted. Mughal Empire started disintegrating. Besides, other regional powers came to power. Regional powers, they had been trying to occupy certain places of the Mughals. The certain places which were still left, there was none to look after it. After the death of Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb, the weak successors of Aurangzeb, they had no capability to understand the need to protect the country, to protect such a country where they should have an important role for which they were supposed to be there. But they did not think it. On the contrary, they led a very luxurious life. That's why, my dear students, the regional kingdoms, they stopped paying taxes and revenues, and they all became very much courageous, brave, and started occupying a number of important places of the Mughals, and they rose to power. So, by that way, you know, one of the most important races, one of the most important communities of India, the Marathas, came to power under the leadership of Shivaji. Shivaji was their most important leader. The bold leadership of Shivaji helped them to be unified. They all unanimously strongly supported the leadership of Shivaji. Shivaji gained help from there, and ultimately he was able to make a very powerful kingdom, the Maratha kingdoms, and made his capital Pune. Pune was his capital. Shivaji, during the presence of Aurangzeb, tried to teach the Mughals a good lesson. Aurangzeb was there, who was trying to crush the growing influence of Shivaji, but was unable to crush the influence of the Marathas because of the leading role of Shivaji and his good strategy, his bravery, his intelligence. These all qualities helped the Marathas to avoid from such an atmosphere. The Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb was trying to crush them. Ultimately, the Mughals After the death of Aurangzeb, the weak successors could not check the growing influence of Shivaji, and in course of time, Shivaji, one by one, places and regionals and the one by one states where Mughal control was there, they started occupying. Number one, Bijapur. Number two, Golconda, the most important places where Shivaji Shivaji established his control. Shivaji occupied. These all were the Mughal states, the Mughal vicinities and territories. But afterwards, Shivaji also strengthened the Marathas and their expectation. Shivaji also fulfilled the expectation of the Marathas, the whole nation. What they had been expecting from Shivaji, Shivaji was able to fulfill their need and expectation. Shivaji introduced a good administration, but after the death of Shivaji, all other rulers who allowed themselves to be the Peshwas and prime ministers, the Peshwas and prime minister started occupying their position in Indian politics, and afterwards they all decided to organize a group of politicians, and they established their control over the politics of India by following the footsteps of Shivaji. Shivaji, at the time when introduced a system of guerrilla warfare, the successors of Shivaji, the Peshwas and the prime ministers, they all followed the same technique and same method, the warfare, the guerrilla warfare, and they also defeated some, regional powers. They occupied some Mughal places, Mughal territories, and at the same time, the other regional kingdoms who were there, they also targeted them one by one. For example, they occupied Gujarat, they occupied Malwa, they occupied some portion of Bengal and some portion of Odisha, but Bengal and Odisha, both the two states they were not under the direct control of the Marathas, but simply they accepted the influence, the political supremacy of the Marathas, and both the two states, Bengal and Odisha, agreed to pay their two taxes, Sardeshmukhi and Chaud, the two taxes the Marathas imposed on Bengal and Odisha. They were ready to pay it. By this way, Maratha extended his influence in Indian politics. But ultimately, one mistake was there. Which was there? The Battle of the Panipat, the third Battle of Panipat, my dear students, changed the entire circumstances, the entire scenario, and the people never expected him to be defeated. Who was he? The Maratha leader. The Maratha leaders could not understand the basic thing, that it was due to an effort they might be defeated at the hands of the Afghans, because Afghan leader Ahmad Shah Abdali occupied two important places while invading our country, India. Ahmad Shah Abdali was basically an invader. So he invaded, while invading our country, India, he defeated two most important places. Sirhind he occupied, and afterwards, when he occupied Sirhind, that time Muhammad Shah Abdali thought that it would be a place no one would come and challenge his authority. That's why, after having occupied Sirhind, he also occupied another important place, Lahore. So the two most important places where Afghan control was there, Sirhind and Lahore. It was a great mistake of the Marathas. They occupied it from the Afghan soldiers. On hearing the news, Ahmad Shah Abdali ordered his soldiers to come up and to teach the Marathas a good lesson. So both the two soldiers, the Maratha soldiers and the Afghan soldiers, met at the third battle of Panipat in the year 1761. My dear students, in the year 1761, the third battle of Panipat held. The third battle of Panipat. At the third battle, 1761, the third battle of Panipat was held, and in that very battle, who won the battle? The Marathas were defeated at the hands of the Afghan soldiers. The bold leadership of the Afghans, who were duly motivated, encouraged by Ahmad Shah Abdali, they fought bravely, and the Marathas were defeated badly in the third battle of Panipat in the year 1761. And the glory and image of the Marathas, whatever they had established throughout our country, India, had gone forever. They were trying to gain back their former influence, but could not achieve success because of only one wrong decision. One wrong decision. The defeat of the Marathas and the impact on Indian politics. What was the impact? The defeat of the Marathas and its impact on Indian politics, my dear students. What was this? The defeat of the Marathas and its impact on Indian politics. As soon as the Marathas were defeated by the Afghan soldiers in the third battle of Panipat in the year 1761, my dear students, the entire circumstances, the entire political situation of our country, India, was totally changed. The Marathas neither could control their influence, nor could gain back their influence, and ultimately the Afghans defeated the Marathas and reoccupied the two most important places which had become one of the most important factors to them, prestige matter for them, Sirhind and Lahore, the most two important states of the Afghans. They once again reoccupied from the hands of the Marathas. So the Afghans proved that they had come to India not only to invade, but also to establish their political control. That's why, my dear students, under the bold leadership of Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Afghans started invading other places of India, but who had been watching the entire changing political scenes of India? The British, because already the British had defeated the last independent Nawab of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, Sirajuddaulah, in the year 1757. Last independent Nawab of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, Sirajuddaulah, was defeated by whom? Sirajuddaulah was defeated by the British East India Company. The British East India Company, by defeating Sirajuddaulah, the last Nawab of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, proved that they came to India not only to trade, not only to establish trading relationship with this country, but also to take part in Indian politics, but also to be the ruler of India. That's why, my dear students, in the year 1757 is a very important year. In that very year, East India Company and its head, Military General Robert Clive, defeated the last Nawab of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, Sirajuddaulah, and established their political control over our country, India, in course of time. But initially, they established their control in Bengal, Bihar and Orissa. So, after having defeated the Nawab of Bengal, Bihar and Orissa, they had been watching the entire changing political scene of India. They had been watching the consequence of the two powers, the Afghans and the Marathas, in the third battle of Panipat, which was held in the year 1761, my dear students. 1761, the third battle of Panipat, which was held. Most of the soldiers of the Marathas, they left no stone unturned to establish Maratha control by defeating the Afghans, but they were unable and were badly defeated at the hands of the Afghans. It was due to the technique and method, in spite of having their own technique, guerrilla warfare, they were unable to defeat the Afghans because Afghans were more arrogant, more aggressive, more dangerous than the Marathas. So, in the third battle of Panipat in the year 1761, my dear students, the Marathas were defeated, badly defeated by the Afghans. And the British, who had been thinking that in future, their main competitor would be the Marathas. Now, they were able to understand that not Marathas. They expected Marathas to be defeated at the hands of the Afghans because they knew that Afghans would come and invade India and then they would get back. They would never extend their areas, their political control over that country, India, but the Marathas. That's why they expected the Marathas to be defeated at the hands of the at the hands of the Afghans. But ultimately what they expected came to be true. The Marathas were defeated by the Afghans and the Britishers now were able to establish their political control in various parts of India. So this is the subject matter and content of the lesson, my dear students. Teaching of this lesson is completed. Next day, some few points are left. Next day I shall continue and complete the teaching of that lesson. Thank you, my dear students.